Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I see that we do have a resolution approving the mediation agreement with Clark Patterson, so we will need to amend the agenda. Can I get a motion to Tim? A second? Dennis? Any discussion? All in favor of amending the agenda? Any opposed? Thank you. Now can we approve the amended agenda? Pam, a second? Phil, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. At this time, we have time for public comments. We welcome and encourage public comments. Do we have anybody who wishes to address the board tonight?
Michelle Farley, OE, WTA President. On behalf of Wayne Teachers Association, we wanted to say it's been a pleasure working with you. We look forward to working with the board next year and our new superintendent.
Thank you. Kim Schultz, OP, WTA Executive Vice President. Again, it's been an honor and a pleasure. You've been a leader and a mentor to the entire district, and we respect and appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those kind words. It's right back at you guys. Have been a very professional organization. We've had a great time. I think we did some hard work, bumped the heads here or there, but all for what was best for our students. And I think that was great. So thank you for those kind words.
Thanks for the collaboration.
I'll miss you guys too.
We wish you the best.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? If not, then let's go to board member comments, reports.
So I just have two quick comments. One is I just want to say graduation was absolutely fantastic. I loved the speaker, the select chorus singing. I mean, when they sang the national anthem, that was just amazing. It was wonderful. So if any of you missed it, go next year. It was great. The other thing is I just wanted to make a couple comments, as probably I know everybody at the table here knows this is my last board meeting. And our new member is in the audience and will be sitting up here next meeting. But I wanted to take this opportunity to make a wish for the future in the district. And one of the things that I would really like to see, and I've been talking to a lot of people in the public about this, is we do an absolutely fantastic job in the district of recognizing our athletes who are successful. And that's great. They deserve it. They work hard. They've done really well, performed well. They're recognized, and that's great. I don't want to take anything away from that, but I would like to see us do the same thing for our students who achieve academically. So one example that was given to me recently in this past weekend was that when we have seniors who get athletic scholarships, we make a big deal out of it, but you have a student who gets an academic scholarship and nothing, crickets. So we should really make an effort, because as much as I played sports when I was in high school. I don't think I was good enough to earn a scholarship anywhere, but I enjoyed it, and I highly, I believe very strongly in the things that athletics teaches a kid. But for 99.9% of our students, the thing that's going to serve them the best in the long term for their life are their academics. And we should really do more to show kids that we value that. And that's my little platform for my leaving of the school board.
Thank you, Karen. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have.
Dennis?
To piggyback on that, Karen, I I would like to see us in the future to bring in some of the IB students that have graduated. I talked to a bunch of them, and I'd like to see them to come in. They said that they would be very happy to come in and talk to us on how much IB has helped them in college and everything. So, I mean, maybe we can get it together with the chair and bring him in. Also, the graduation was awesome. Had a very nice time. And I'd like to know what's going on the middle school principal hiring. If John can comment.
That's a great question. We have a very aggressive timeline, as you probably would expect, because we want to try to get someone on board before September. And what that entails is trying to get to the board sometime in July, because typically a candidate will not give their notice of resignation until the board has adopted or approved them to come on board here. So just so you know, that's how we do that. We have to work backwards and understand that typically they're not going to give their notice until they've been firmly appointed. We had over 35 candidates, and we did some pre-screening. But what I'd rather do is let our new assistant superintendent for HR maybe share with you a little bit about that process.
Absolutely. We did have 36 candidates, all qualified candidates, did a paper screening. I think it closed last Tuesday. On Wednesday, we did the paper screening. On Friday, we actually brought them in. I call it the speed dating round. And it was real quick, looking at their leadership abilities and kind of their qualities. From there, we narrowed it down to 6. Today, we had at the building level the interviews, and we narrowed that down to 3. A week from today, that will go to cabinet level. By then, our new superintendent will be on board, and from that, they'll select that candidate. So hopefully by the end of the day on Thursday, July 2nd, we'll have somebody that we're going to actually be up for the job to. It was really fun working with the middle school today. It was well represented, and they were like, wow, every single candidate is so different, yet so good. So we didn't bring a cookie cutter. It was everybody had something different to bring to the table, and we were actually able to look at what's a best match for them. And so we didn't necessarily rank them, you know, this is my first, second, third, just 3 candidates they're very comfortable with going on to the next round. Pam was part of that process as the WT president, along with families and PTOs and things like that. Is that the kind of information that you were looking for?
Yeah, just how it was going and
Yeah.
where it's going and
Kind of exciting.
yeah,
I
so
felt really good at the end of the
looking
day.
like next Thursday.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board on that? Bob, how many roughly were on that ballpark on the building level committee?
Including me, 11.
11,
But
okay.
There were
So
10 people.
we had a pretty good cross-section. The district level committee will also include many of the senior staff. In addition, there's been a reach out to some of the building level administration as well, and I know we're pulling that together. The district level conversation tends to take a look at the candidate in a broader level, how they interact, what experiences they bring at the state level, at a district level as well. Have they, so that level of questioning will be geared a little bit different. We want to see how they can interact and what they can bring to the district as a whole. The building level, we talk about what they're doing at the building and what type of leader they'll be at the building. Then we want to know how they can help us and support us at the district level. And with some of the challenges that we have coming up, anyone that can help us in those areas will certainly be welcome as well. So, great. Thank you for the question, and it's important because we want to make sure people understand the process is, again, as open and transparent as we've been trying to be, although aggressive. There's no doubt about it. We're moving quick. And let me just say one other thing. It's important that you move quick because this is the time of the year the candidate pool is the strongest. If we were to slow down, it'd be very difficult to get people at the end of the summer, especially if they're committed. A lot of times they don't like to make that move. So that's another reason why we're moving pretty aggressively. So,
Thank you.
I'd just like to thank Karen for being on the board the last 3 years. I know you've been through some good experiences and some bad. So thank you for your time and the effort you put forth and some of the guidance you gave us new members as we came on. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also like to say, the year I was on policy with Karen, she's very thorough and very dedicated. And, you know, we make a lot of money here on the board. And I just want to say that, you know, Karen, you know, don't spend your money too quickly. And I also want to say that I thoroughly enjoyed graduation, and I was so happy that we had an inside air-conditioned theater seating venue. 2 hours, we were in and out. It was great. Parking was free. It couldn't have gone any better. I don't know, maybe there were some snafus the board's not aware of, but it was wonderful. And all I can think of is, normally, if it had been last year, we would be going to Frontier Field this Saturday, and there's 100% chance of rain with 4 inches that's supposed to fall. And I had said to Mike Pullen, what would we do? And he said, same thing they tell you at RIT, embrace the rain. So we would be out there in the rain. So it was absolutely wonderful. And Joe Geiger gave the most moving speech. If anybody is watching this and would like to see it, I'm sure it's streamed somewhere, but it was an absolutely wonderful speech. I haven't been to that many graduations. His was great.
The entire ceremony is on YouTube, and I can't tell you what the link is off the top of my head, but it is on YouTube. Any other board member comments at this time?
I'm just going to jump in and piggyback on what Tim said regarding Karen. I appreciated your level-headed, resounding board for my first year on the board, and being the president, facing a lot of challenges, and it was always I more times than not would bounce things off Karen to make sure that I wasn't in left or right field, and that I was trying to maintain some version of common sense. And so I appreciated your help and your guidance last year. I've said that to you behind closed doors, but I will be sorry to see you go.
I had planned on waiting until the end of the meeting to do this under board president comments, but I think it's apropos that we do it now. Karen, we do have a certificate to present to you in recognition of service to the students of Wayne Central School District. This certificate is presented to Karen Moore as a member of the Board of Education for 3 years, with our sincere gratitude for your leadership, your knowledge, and your dedication. Wayne Central Board of Education. And for those of you who have not attended many board meetings, I would second Phil's comments about this being the voice of reason, and sometimes Karen asks the questions that need to be asked. So, any other board member comments? If not, then let's turn to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ron. Got a couple superintendent reports tonight. We're going to be talking about our Costa Rica trip, a Smart Schools presentation, and a little debriefing on our exit survey, which part of our budget process this year. Greg has just a brief comment on nuclear stabilization that we just want to update the board. As you know, it's going to be pretty brief. We thought it was something that we'd be able to do, and it appears we may have some issues with that. So we're going to talk about that briefly. So with that said, I'm going to talk a little bit about student and staff awards. So we want to congratulate Wayne Central's valedictorian and salutatorian. Alexis Spencer has been named the class valedictorian with a grade point average of 99.18. Good for her. Alexis earned an international baccalaureate diploma and will attend East Carolina University with a merit scholarship. Emily Blackman is the class salutatorian with a... What did I say? Blackman. Blakeman. I'm sorry.
You want a selfie?
It's my last...
Take a picture of a selfie?
It's my, there's probably another name I'm struggling with tonight, so it's my last day, so you won't have to put up with this anymore. So Emily, anyway, 98.76. My goodness, congratulations! Less than a half a percentage point behind Alexis. Emily will attend SUNY Oneonta this fall. Emily, did you do the senior presentation on hearing? Did you do a senior project?
Senior project.
What was that on?
It was on the effect of improper classroom acoustics.
There you go. Which was a great, I was in that presentation, and I remember, I just want to tell you that, and I think I told the board, there was a great presentation that the new superintendent's going to have to deal with acoustics in our buildings. So this is up to Emily. We'd all have auditory devices for all, and it was very well done. So I just want to let people know that I remember that clearly. So great presentation. But anyway, Oni on to this fall with a full academic scholarship. She will study math and statistics. So congratulations, Emily. Yeah.
She's also going to go to the FBLA national competition.
Which one?
Emily is.
Share that.
I was telling our superintendent, you're also going to the FBLA national competition in Chicago. And I've had the privilege of being an FBLA judge at the state level for the last 4 or 5 years. So I have a deep appreciation of just how talented you are and how well you have done in order to qualify for the national level. So well done.
Great. So next, we have some WTA award winners. WTA award nominees are selected based on their fulfillment of the following citizenship criteria. They are cooperative. They exhibit positive leadership qualities. They are considerate and respectful to others. They are academically motivated. They are always willing to help. They accept and abide by school expectations, and they are good friends to others. So at the high school, Angelina Champagne, Jerry Borm. At the middle school, Islin Estabrook and Jeffrey Clark. Freewill Elementary, Emma Grasso and Connor Janzi. Ontario Elementary School, Katie Saplinski and Seamus Fanning. And Ontario Primary School, Jamie Talley and Hayden Hillen. So congratulations to those students for the WTA, being WTA award winners. So we're finishing the year off with some very strong academic and citizenship awards. So once again, congratulations to all our students and staff that get them there. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Syracuse, who's going to introduce some instructional.
John, I just want to interrupt you. There's a young man in our audience that I think also deserves a little recognition. Tyler Hecht is sitting there, and he was had the lead in the musical this year, and also went to Stars for Tomorrow. And there were 16, refresh me if I'm wrong, 16 young men and 16 young women who were competing for the top honor. And it's done by process of elimination, as you have to perform, and then people are weeded out and you perform again. And Tyler went all the way to second. And I have a very good friend who is on that committee and said that Tyler represented Wayne Central very, very well. And I wish you very good luck. You are an honor to have in this building.
So our first superintendent's report, Ms. Jackman has brought the big guns to help her present. Our Costa Rica trip, this will be our 4th such trip. Mrs. Jackman really has expanded our students' world with some of the programs and trips that she's brought to them, and I think this Costa Rica trip really highlights the importance and the impact of world travel. So we, as is now customary, we bring our out-of-the-country field trips to the board for your acknowledgement and approval. So, Ms. Jackson.
So, hi, I'm here again. I think I was here just a few weeks ago presenting Quebec, but I am going on sabbatical for the fall. So I wanted to do this now because when I return on February 1st, this program needs to be underway and the parent meeting would need to be scheduled for that time. So I'm here tonight to present, and Mr. Syracuse, I don't know if you said, I didn't hear you, we've gone 3 times, correct? This is our 4th, okay. And this is a program I started from scratch in, I want to say 2011, I believe. And what I was looking to do as a foreign language teacher, I'm looking to give the kids an experience, and I really wanted this time to have a homestay component. I wanted the students to get to know a culture as intimately as they could and not just stay in hotels and eat in restaurants, but I wanted the homestay portion. I was also very I was very keen on a school experience. I was not looking for, however, a shadow program where our students would simply visit a high school in Costa Rica and wander around. I actually wanted the kids to be taught by native speakers. And so what I've put together is for the week that we do the homestay, they have a property, the company that we use, they have a property called El Rancho. And it's an expansive property. There's a pool, there's a soccer field, and there are individual classrooms, and I call them tiki huts. And they only hold maybe 4 to 5 students, so it's a very intimate setting, and they have native speaker teachers. And they get 3 hours of instruction for the 5 days that comprise that school week of our first week there. The kids rave about the school experience and say that they learn a tremendous amount from Spanish-only instruction for 3 hours a day for 5 days. So I'm proud of the school portion I put together, definitely the homestay and the families we've been able to revisit now. Many of the homes, as I drop the kids off that first night and I go into the home and I meet the parents, and now it really is becoming a, ay, señora, you know, you're here again. So there's a friendliness and there's a welcoming, and they do know me and they know the type of student that I bring on the trip. The second week that we're in country, it is a travel week. And so the kids get to experience what Costa Rica has to offer. And it has to offer many things, as you can see in, I believe it's page 2 of the itinerary. We do a lot of physical activities, the whitewater rafting, horseback riding through just beautiful scenery. The suspension bridges, the walk through the rainforest, a cruise on a river and looking for animals, and we always find some, whether it's howler monkeys or certain types of birds, crocodiles. Zip lining, we do visit the hot springs, so the kids get to sit in pools of hot water at the base of a volcano, and that's quite exciting. For most of these kids, it's the first time, obviously, they've seen a volcano. And then we do experience for a day or two the beach and the tropical weather and the beauty that is Costa Rica. So from the first year that I started this, we had 23 students. The second time we went, we had 23 students. And this third time, I had about 46 who wanted to go. We had to close enrollment at 40, and the waiting list, stayed as a waiting list. But we had almost double the numbers. And so the word on the street is definitely that this is a great program. The kids are very happy with it and have a great time. We do go in February, but that is summer in Costa Rica, so they're getting great weather, and it's a nice time. I understand. I think it would be great if you could hear from 2 of our past participants here from 2015, Emily and Tyler. And what I asked them to do is very much similar to what I asked the 4 girls, yes, to do for Quebec. And that is simply to speak of the lasting impression that the trip had on them and the value. So I have not pre-screened what they're about to say. I don't know. I'm looking at a PowerPoint for the first time. So they're very creative, and I'd like for each of them to tell you what the trip meant to them. So Tyler, do you want to start?
Okay, well, this isn't actually our PowerPoint. We made a different one.
Okay.
Okay. This one's ours that we just made briefly. There are not going to be sock puppets. How do I...
It's going to be in English, right?
Any advice?
Once our smart schools grant
We hope.
If it was an instrument, it'd probably been fine.
Okay, so here we go. So first of all, we're just going to show you some pictures that we took while we were there and just kind of explain what happened through our point of view. So the first week, as Ms. Jackman said, we stayed with a host family and we went to school every day. So this is a picture of Emily's house.
This is my house that I stayed in, and you can see little behind the gate. Those are the dogs that my family had. And this is a picture of me with my host mom and my host sister, and my host dad isn't in the picture, but my mom and my sister actually went to the United States towards the end of my stay there because her sister was getting married. So I got to experience life with the whole family, and I got to experience interesting point of view with just having me and Kayla Freshlug, who is staying with me, and our host dad. So that was very interesting for me.
These are just some pictures of me and my host family. At the top is me and my host cousins who, my host mom's siblings all lived on the same street as her, so the cousins all were on the street at night. We all went outside and played together. This is a picture of one of the classrooms. As Ms. Jackman said, it's very intimate. Everything is done on this whiteboard for the whole 3 hours, and you just take notes, you ask questions, you do a bunch of different things.
And this is a picture of me with my teacher there in the middle, and a little off from the middle. And that behind us is our classroom, and that was definitely one of the most valuable experiences for me, was being in school and just completely all Spanish for 3 hours straight and just learning a ton.
I think it helped a lot also being able to learn from a native speaker. It was something I'd never been exposed to before. I'd never really had a conversation with a native speaker. And a lot of people said that, well, I know for me personally, the school is actually the highlight of the trip for me, and I know most people who've gone on the trip say that the week of going to school and staying with a host family was their favorite week, not the week of traveling and doing all the other stuff. And I definitely agree with that. I think this week was very valuable. Yeah.
I agree completely.
So the travel week. This is the volcano, Arenal volcano. We stayed at a hotel at the base of the volcano. This is a church we visited. This is the bridge with the crocodiles. This place has the most crocodiles per square kilometer in the world. This is just another picture. This is the world's largest oxen cart. And towards the end of the second week, this was a beach we went to. This was probably my favorite day of the trip, I think. This is another picture of the beach. Despite the heat.
It was 114 degrees.
It was
for the 2
very
days
hot.
we were at the beach. And it was unprecedented, so very, yeah, very hot.
It was hot.
But it's summer there, and you're on the coast, so.
So overall, the impact of the trip, like we said earlier, learning language from a native speaker was something very valuable that I think all of us had never been exposed to before. And I said many times that I learned more Spanish in the 2 weeks we were there than I had in the 6 years that I've been taking Spanish here.
And definitely, I think one of the biggest things for me was when I sit at Spanish class at school, I'm thinking about like all of my grammar and like using all my vocabulary words and just trying to like show what we're learning in class. But when we were there, it was more like having a conversation and just being able to communicate my ideas, and not as much like my host family didn't care if I used the wrong tense of a verb because they understood what I was saying and just trying to get my point across.
I also feel like in school, students are a lot of times scared to speak in class because we're usually getting graded on it. But here we were free to speak. It was, like she said, it was okay to make a mistake because we weren't being graded on it. And I think that's an experience that we don't really get in school. Like, we speak, but at the same time, we always have to be graded on it. So I think going on this trip was very, again, valuable, just being able to speak and learn from that. Also, the culture was something completely new to everyone, I think. Living with a family, we were completely immersed in a different culture that none of us had ever seen before. And it was a very eye-opening experience that I think everybody, or every student, should have an opportunity to see that in some aspect, no matter where the trip is. But it was very eye-opening to see how other people in other countries live, especially in a second world country.
Yeah, getting to kind of learn about the family. My host mom was actually from Honduras. She wasn't originally from Costa Rica, so I got to learn a little bit about her family, and I actually got to meet her mom, and just eating all the food and living in the house and thinking about, like, what are my manners supposed to be like? How, like, what am I supposed to do? I know when we first went into the house, we were like, should we take off our shoes? Should we, like, leave our shoes on? I don't know what we're supposed to do. So we were just kind of, like, learning along the way about what their culture is like.
And finally, all the new experiences we got to do on the trip. Like, for example, I know Emily and I had never gone horseback riding before.
That was a very interesting
I don't think Emily will go
experience.
again.
I was going to text Ms. Jackman earlier and ask her to send me a picture of, she has a picture of me on my horse, and I had never been horseback riding before. And I was really nervous about it, and they got me on the horse, and I was really, really scared. And I just started crying. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do this, I can't do this. And she leans over to me and she's like, can I take a picture of you? And I was like, no. And she's like, okay, smile.
But aside from that, there were many happy experiences.
Yeah, it was a very happy experience.
I find it interesting that you seem to be afraid of the horse, that being in a hotel at the base of the volcano.
No worries.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it, again, goes back to the culture with all the different experience that had we not gone, we'd never be exposed to. So I would definitely recommend that we promote this trip, and definitely recommend that as many students as possible go on this trip in the future.
Absolutely.
It was definitely the highlight of my high school career.
I just wondered what you thought when there wasn't a wagon there.
It was, I am a very picky eater to begin with, so I was very nervous about the food going there. But, and then, like, when we went to stores and there was never anything, like, that I was familiar with. There weren't, like, normal potato chips or anything like that. So it was a very interesting experience, but I made myself try everything. I made myself eat everything, so.
I actually got to go on one of the first days that we were there. Our host mom came in and she was like, do you guys want to go to Walmart with us? And we were like, yeah. So we all got in the car, and we actually, that night, we had dinner at Subway, which is a little different than an American Subway. We got to go to a grocery store, and then we went to Walmart, which was kind of funny because we went down one aisle, and it was just completely all the way down. One side was rice, and the other side was beans. So it's definitely different than an American Walmart, but a good experience.
I don't know if I need the microphone, but if I can add, Tyler was kind enough to write me a letter here at graduation time, and it's hanging up in my room. And I remember for each day, I taught Tyler Spanish 4, and for each day that we were on the trip, it was an absolute pleasure to wake up the next day and see all the kids, and buenos días, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo está todo? And la familia. And he always said, I am so excited for today. And I would say, well, what about today? And he said, I don't know, everything. And he said, every day is better than the last day. And he included that in his letter. So I appreciate the enthusiasm you brought. And really it's a chance for them to open their minds, expand their horizons. And I just have to say, I may have said this a few weeks ago for the Quebec presentation, but as a Mercy High School graduate, and I participated in the Japanese exchange program that we had at the time. So we had a Japanese student in the fall, and then that following summer I went and lived in Japan. And that was my first experience abroad. And at this point, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure to live in Santiago de Chile for 6 months. And I've lived in 5 other countries besides, and I've traveled to about 40 countries. That one experience in Japan is what has made me who I am today as a traveler, as a language teacher, as a lover of culture and of adventure. So just a simple trip that my parents worked hard to pay for. And I'm sure they didn't think it would have the far-reaching effect that it had, or effects. But that one experience as an exchange student to Japan has changed my world. So I know that, or I believe that these trips that I've presented here, Quebec and Costa Rica, their effects cannot be underestimated. And I think these kids will look for ways to perhaps study abroad in college, or they will look to simply make travel abroad part of their leisure activities. And I just think it will continue. It will be more than a memory. It will somehow work its way into their lives as adults. So I would encourage you to support these trips, as I think they're, as Tyler and Emily have said, the highlight of their high school career. So thank you. Do you want to take that out?
That's
Or
not
does-
mine.
oh, okay. Any questions, or?
Sure. As I think I've said before, I had an opportunity to live overseas in several different countries as well. But so I'm an easy sell on all these programs. I mean, I'm all in on these. I love it. But I do have a question for Tyler. You had mentioned that you had a chance to go into the street and kind of play with some of the cousins because everyone lived in the same family.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I was shocked that you took the language for 6 years. That's impressive. But did anyone cheat, if you will, on just speaking English? Did they speak English, and was it sometimes easier to say, hey, catch the ball, or was it always...
My host, or my cousins, none of them spoke any English.
Oh, they didn't?
So
Okay.
I didn't really have an opportunity to cheat like that.
Okay.
But,
I
like
meant
if
them, of course, not you.
Right. But like if I didn't know a word and I really had no idea how to get around it using Spanish, I would just say it in English. And sometimes that would help, or just describe it. But like with other speakers who did speak English, yeah, I would do that if I didn't know the word or anything like that.
Yeah, my host parents spoke a little bit of English, English. So sometimes they'd be like trying to tell us something, and we'd be like, I have no idea what you're saying. And they kind of like try to work that in a little bit just to try to get us to understand. It would be like, oh, okay. And sometimes with their accents too, that was hard. Like we'd know what they were saying, but we wouldn't quite understand it. So
I think it's important to keep in mind that Emily's point was here in class, there's simply not the type of daily interaction that's just, hey, how you doing? How was your sleep last night? And, oh, geez, what are your plans for today? So for these kids to finally not be answering questions in class or doing a dialogue, and to just have to speak about anything, whether their day at school, what they think about the weather, the pool visit they had in the afternoon at the rancho. This is all really quite new for them to be using language in such a natural way. And, it's a very short time. Days go by quickly there. So I think everybody made an effort. But at times, was it difficult? Perhaps. And if they knew someone in the family could understand some English, I'm sure there were times where, just out of frustration, they might say something in English and hope the host father or mother would know what they were saying. But it's a real learning curve for them because now they're being conversational, and that's really the first time that's probably happened.
Well, some would say I can't do it in English, so I'm impressed.
Mrs. Jackman, what's the approval process for the host families? So that these kids are in a safe environment.
Yep. Promatur is a company that's been in business for over 20 years. And so where we go in Costa Rica, as an example, it's really like a circle in front of the rancho. And so these families are very close, and they're known by everyone in the community. So Promatur must have loads of groups that go throughout the year. We're just one group that occupies 1 week, but they can have multiple schools at the ranch, while we're there. It just so happened this time we were the only kids there, and we were a large group this time with 40. So Promatur has contacts with these families in the community. The rancho is staffed by natives, and so they know everyone in that circle. So this is like a selection of 20 or 30 families that are within this this neighborhood. And so these are families that are being used, week after week or every few weeks. And so the company is very sure, and as I say, they're staffed by natives who work at the rancho, and these are people they know. And so the kids, obviously, if there were a concern or anyone had a homestay fit that wasn't a good fit, they simply tell us, and right away they would be moved. So this is a company, as I say, with 20 years experience and multiple groups coming throughout the year. These are families that they can rely on because, let's say a family's had, 50 or 100 student groups that have come through. Obviously, if they're never getting a bad word and kids are always saying, oh, it was a great experience, then that family stays on the roster as an option.
And also, like, even in the town, when we were just, like, walking down our street or anything, I never once felt like I was unsafe at all in any way.
And like I said before, when we would play outside at night with our cousins, we would be out till 10 or 10:30 at night. I wasn't supposed to tell you that. But yeah, like, again, never felt unsafe.
Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely more afraid of the horse than I ever was being out on the street.
It indicates that the date of the trip is in February. Will the kids be giving up their winter recess to go on the trip?
They do. I don't think they see it as giving it up, though.
It's
I
worth
think
it.
it's a win.
Yeah.
So you went away for 2 weeks and then still get to play?
Mm-hmm.
You too. That's impressive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, and good luck at college, kids.
Thank you.
Tyler and Emily, you guys both get your last pay for the year.
Yes.
That's right.
I don't know why we put the student presentations and trip presentations first. They're the most interesting, but next we're not gonna try to rival it, but I have Mrs. Hield has been working hard on the Smart Schools initiative, and she's gonna give you an update, a reminder about what some of the background is behind it. You'll recall that earlier in the year, Mr. Carlovati sent some information, and I believe a Friday letter about the Smart Schools. It came up, a couple of questions at board meetings between winter time and now, so we want to just make sure that we kind of keep the board up to speed, even as things are developing for us. So we won't have all of the answers, but we have the process to share with you today, and certainly we'll answer as many questions as we can if you have them toward the end.
Thank you for having me. It's very timely that we came tonight to provide this information. I was just at the last training last week. New information comes in every day, so like Joe said, we're going to share what we have to date, and as new things come down the pike, we'll share that, and I imagine it would be through the Friday letter. So just as a little bit of history, the Smart Schools Bond Act was voted on and passed in November of 2014. The state has spent the last several months putting together the process and then sharing with us what the beginning of that process will be. Essentially, it's $2 billion across the state to enhance and upgrade technology access for students in public schools right now. Wayne Central's contribution or allocation is 1.4. The list, this website, smartschoolsnewyork.com, has a list of all the schools across the state and the allocation for each school. This last bullet here is interesting. This is the first time that I've experienced this with a grant, that there is no expiration date. With that amount of money, this is extremely important to us, that having a shot in the arm of that amount of money is difficult if you're only given a short period of time to strategically plan for that, to use the funds, and it's difficult to with a deadline or with an expiration date, it's difficult to really create longevity for that equipment and maintain the investment that you have and to protect that investment that you have. This time there is no expiration date. If you remember a few years ago with the ERA funds, it was quite a bit, it was a lot of money. And it was a shot in the arm. We had a year to spend the money. We had a year to plan for it. It made it difficult. It made it pretty challenging to do that. This time, with the Smart Schools Bond Act, they're starting with the end in mind, just like we're used to teaching. They are they're collecting some data first. So the next 3 months, they're going to be collecting data from all the schools. From there, they're going to create the template for us, or the way for us to apply for this grant. And it actually will become a investment plan is what we'll put together.
I got a quick question.
Sure.
When you said it's 1.5 million,
Mhm.
and then you gotta apply for it, it's not automatically given to you, you do have to apply for it?
Correct,
Okay.
yes. Yep, and please ask questions as you go, as we go through. I don't mind that at all. And I think as we do walk through, I think I went ahead one.
So the application
not.
process, Dennis, is that we would demonstrate our business plan to stay within the confines of the grant. You know, so as long as you're within the confines of the grant, the expectation is that we'll be getting 1.4 million, I believe it is.
Through the life cycle of the entire.
Yeah, through the life cycle of it.
It could be 10 years, it could be 20, however we deem.
So they don't just
this-
give you, once you've applied for the grant and you get it, they don't just give you $1.4 million?
That's right. Thank
We'll
goodness.
talk about that in a minute, though.
Yes,
How that goes.
thank goodness. All right, so there's 4 areas right now that are called the allowable uses. The first one, instructional space for pre-K and replacing transportable classrooms. This really doesn't pertain to us right now unless they change some of their criteria. Right now, I mean, we sub out. Is that the right word? Sub out for our pre-K?
Contract out.
We contract out.
With local.
And also, we don't have transportable classrooms, although district office staff might disagree with their verdi's out here. So that doesn't apply to us. 2, 3, and 4 really do to us. Expansion of broadband or wireless, including the community connectivity projects. Let me speak to that just a little bit, because that second part of that is a little confusing, but they've provided some clarification just in the last few days. So obviously, we know that we have an area of need for improvement for our Wi-Fi. That's continual. That won't change. So I know that that's going to be an area of focus, or could be, for us. The community connectivity end of it, that doesn't really mean that they're going to give us funds to put repeaters and antennas throughout the community. What that really means is they want to make sure that we are providing all the information to our students so that when they're not on school grounds, they know where they can go, or they know where they can find Wi-Fi access. It's all about just partnering more with the community, and the state wants to see that we're working with the community. School safety and security technology, that's an initiative of ours right now. It's a plan that we have in place right now, and this could potentially help leverage that and leverage funds to speed up that process a little bit for us if we choose to.
So, I'm sorry, I just want to ask a question. So when we're talking about school safety and security technology, so is this things like bus cameras, building cameras, those kinds of things? Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. The fourth thing is all around technology in the classroom, and that can be in devices from A to Z. But it also means the infrastructure to support those devices. So you can see there could be a lot of areas where we could tap into this if we so choose to. The Smart School Investment Plan. This is actually the end game for Wayne Central and for districts across the state. The investment plan will be that package that we put together and that we submit to the state. Before we do that, though, there's about 3 or 4 months of work that we will be doing and helping the state. Right now, they're fact-finding. So they've provided a survey tool for us. They're opening it up July 1st. It's a 3-month process where we go into this survey tool and we answer questions, question by question by question. It provides the state with a way of knowing what areas and focuses areas of need that school districts are going to have, so that they can kind of prejudge what this is going to look like. And from all that information, they will then create this Smart School Investment Plan template for us. The due date for that survey tool for us to have completed that entire survey is October 15th. We plan to submit it long before then. We submit it to BOCES first. They review it, send it back to us for recommendations. And yeah, that's by September 15th. And then they send it on to the state for not approval, but just a gathering to gather that data. And then from there, they'll create this template for us. And they haven't provided any timeline from there yet. So right now, obviously, we're in the beginning stages. They're going to be looking for some specific things. When we do get to the point of doing this investment plan, they want to make sure that I'm not with my 6 technicians down in the basement making these decisions. They want to make sure that we're talking to all stakeholders, teachers, students, parents, community members, non-public schools, and other stakeholders in developing this plan. They want to make sure that we have a strong link to our instructional technology plan. Very timely for us. You know, and last time I was here, I spoke to you about the technology committee that is made up of representatives of teachers, students, some administrators, and community members. And we've spent this entire year putting together our focus for instructional technology to put together our technology plan, which will come out this summer, which was also timely, because 2 weeks ago, the state just gave us a new template to use that we are mandated to use now, so it was kind of good timing on our part. It'll be the 2015-2018 technology plan. Separate from this investment plan, but they all tie together. They want to make sure that there's adequate infrastructure to support all the devices. It kind of makes sense. You got to make sure you've got the infrastructure to support the devices in the classroom. They want to make sure that we address the needs of students with disabilities and English language learners. And they also want to make sure that within our investment plan, we include action plans for professional development.
It already did.
Oh, okay. For professional development. Now, they caveat that by saying it's not bondable, meaning they're not going to give us money to do the professional development, but they want to make sure that we have in this plan our process for providing those resources, and it'll be at, you know, at our nickel, of course, which is fine. We do that anyway. They just want to make sure that we include that and we provide the training. So how's the money work? This kind of gets into your question, Dennis. It actually is kind of a rolling process. We are used to the grants, or not even grants, but necessarily, but state aid, where textbook money, technology, things that we purchase, we do it in year one, and then we're not reimbursed until year two. We're not reimbursed fully, obviously, but a big percentage. Other grants for reimbursement would be the same way. You would purchase up front, and then a year later you would be reimbursed. This one, however, there's a 90-day turnaround. So we can submit, and we can submit, by the way, not the entire 1.4. That's not even practical. Thank God they know that now. We only submit what we may purchase. Let's say in the first 6 months, we purchase X number of iPads, Chromebooks, and switches in the closet. We submit that reimbursement application, I imagine. They haven't developed it yet, but I imagine that's what it'll be along those lines. 90 days later, we get reimbursed. So it's within the same school year. That'll help us a lot. Right, Greg? What else? Oh, that fourth bullet, or that last bullet, that was there because there was a lot of misunderstandings out there, and I heard other districts saying it as well, and you may also with your colleagues in other districts. Some districts were very concerned about the fact that if we're getting $1.4 million, that means we've got to spend $1.4 million before we get anything back. They're saying absolutely not. Within this, it's written where you do not have to. It can be rolling, where you spend it and get it back bits at a time. This one slide of information has to do with non-public schools. We don't have any non-public schools within our school district, within the lines of, what is the radius, 64 miles or something you said we just talked about a little while ago. Normally when we look at providing equitable experiences and resources, textbooks, equipment to our students who attend a non-public school, a private school, it's our responsibility to provide those resources to our students who live in Wayne but attend another non-public school district. This is flip-flopped. This is taking it from the public and non-public perspective. So our school district is not responsible for providing equitable access to this technology right now. Let's say we've got some students who attend non-public school in Webster. It would be Webster's school district who would have the responsibility of providing that equipment to our students who attend that school in their district. Does that make sense? Yeah. So
We'll see if it holds.
yeah, right. I mean, that's today.
How would this go along with the UPK part of it? Because we're housing and we're contracting out but it's within our district. It's not really a school, but is there any wording towards that?
Not really. I mean, right now, I mean, this is specifically K-12. The pre-K, they're looking at it in a separate way.
It's important to note, though, as with anything, it's a moving target. So the way they're looking at UPK now, that was that first bullet 2 or 3 slides ago around the space issues and things like that. But we will continue to monitor it closely because I think they'll continue to think this through.
So our timeline and our next steps, in June, I don't know if you can see those bullets, those are check marks. That means these are things that are done. We're reviewing right now with you, the Board of Education, just where we are up to date. And I know I've mentioned it the last time I was here to speak, and I think John may have included it in a letter, just an overview of, that it's coming. And I know that we've heard about it. So we will continue to update as we get new information. The training was last week. I attended that. The training was around the new technology plan, the district technology plan template, and how to fill that out. The survey tool, the portal is just opening up July 1st for me to start entering that data. The Board of Regents, just their guidelines around this, and they answered a lot of questions around that. I'm scheduling, or already did schedule, our instructional technology committee. We'll meet twice in July and then in August and finalizing our internal technology plan. I just said we were going to be, next month is when I'll start entering that data. In August, the tech committee meets again, and that's when our 2015-2018 instructional technology plan will be complete, is in August. And I will submit that along with the survey tool by September 15th. So I'd like to have that all wrapped up by the end of August, and then we'll submit it to BOCES for their review. In August, we also need to schedule, remember earlier on I said that I couldn't be by myself in the basement making these decisions. We need to hold some informational sessions with some of the public. Our thoughts were that we would do it with some of the PTOs. We would have stakeholder groups internally within the district with the teachers, but we'd also like to do something at a more global level, community level, similar to how we do some of the budget sessions and other informational sessions. And those should occur early fall and early winter, or late fall, early winter. And that brings us into September. And then really, I mean, the bottom line here, folks, is that we just need to consider to best leverage those Bond Act funds for a sustainable improvement. We really want it to last. We don't want that big shot in the arm where then all of a sudden 5 years down the road we've got, $600,000 worth of equipment that we've got to replace and update, and it just doesn't make sense to do that. It makes sense to spend, the first 3 to 5 years on the newer equipment and then have a real good sustainable longevity plan how to maintain that equipment. And this gives us the opportunity to do that. So.
Any questions?
Any questions?
I like the idea of the rolling money like that. Barry Verts told me one time, they gave them money to buy a boat, they had to hire an officer to man the boat, then the money ran out, and now they had nobody for the boat.
Exactly.
And that's a great analogy on how to do this.
So big thing with.
What am I going to buy? No, I have no idea. No, honestly, I don't. We really want to hear. I have a lot of input, of course, from our technology committee through the year of the instructional uses and the things that they would like to be able to do. So we already have that plan started, educationally. But as far as specific things, I would really look towards globally Wi-Fi, improving our Wi-Fi infrastructure, improving our network infrastructure to support additional devices. One of the things that came out loud and clear from the teachers and the technology committee was more access for the kids. Not just go to the computer lab, let's bring the technology to the kids. Not just 5 at a time, but whole instruction. So more equipment, more devices, more access for kids.
Do we have any idea how many of our students do not have access to a computer outside the school experience?
We've done surveys like that, yes. I don't have recent data though, no, and that's a very good that would be one of the first things we would want to know in part of our surveys that we do to gather input. Absolutely. One of the benefits of the Chromebooks, Chromebooks are they're a laptop, but they have some versatility because you can bring a Chromebook home and you don't have to log on to a network. And when you do turn it on, if there's Wi-Fi nearby, which brings in that community piece, you get all of the permissions and everything packaged up in that Chromebook from school. So that's one way that we could reach kids that don't have something at home.
So we've got some initial ideas, and we've obviously got some direction with our current plan. But Carla, one thing we do want to be open to is the community forums and the public input. So those are in place to help give it some direction, but we are not without vision on this.
Some of our smart boards are probably laying out different those steps.
Yeah.
Would this be able to roll over to like the shop classes too, any new technology there?
I believe, depending on the specifics around what we're talking about, probably not an engraver or some huge piece of equipment like that, but depending.
So far, they've listed specific things: whiteboards, laptops, iPads, tablets, things like that. They haven't expanded on that list to date.
What about 3D printers?
No, not yet. 3D printers are great, and we have looked at 3D printers. Two issues are the initial cost, but that pales in comparison to the operating cost. So hopefully that technology will come down a little bit, because we do think it's a wonderful experience for our kids to be able to use it, but unfortunately not in this grant at this time.
Is there any way the grant could be used to install solar panels?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
Good question. We were thinking of inviting the communication committee maybe to consider helping us with some of our public forums. We don't want to be presumptuous with that, but just something to kind of put on the short list maybe, if there's room. I think that'd be a good marriage.
One of the things I plan to talk about under board member comments tonight is an expanded role for the communications committee, so I think that fits in very well.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That would help tremendously.
Any other questions we can? We will keep you. Our intent tonight isn't to answer all the questions because we don't have all the answers, but we would like to, over time, come back and just here's where we are and remind you. We will always remind you of what the Smart Schools Initiative is and where we are with it. So appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe and Barb. This time we'd like to ask Amy to step up, and she's going to share a little bit about our first exit survey that we provided the community this year after our budget vote. So I think, once again, we're kind of getting, another option in terms of our interest to get community input.
Okay. Well, I'd like to start by acknowledging Mrs. Borman, because someone made a nice comment about what a wonderful job she does on the Board of Education. She's smiling.
That's a surprise.
She was just testing the survey to see how it would come out. Good job, Carla. Way to test the survey.
She wanted to see how accurate we were in reporting.
No comment was left out. Okay, so this was the first time that, since I've been here, that I know of that Wayne Central's done an exit poll survey. Communications committee worked hard to kind of open up that communication with the public and us and get feedback regarding our budget, and this was one of those things we talked about. So overall, we did pretty good. We had 131 people actually complete the survey. The purpose of our survey was to, as I said, continue to get community feedback. We collected information in 3 major areas: how the people voted, where they got their information to base their vote upon, and other concerns they had regarding the budget and the budget process. So like I said, 131 voters completed the survey, which was about 18% of the total 725 voters that came that night. 81% of the survey participants voted yes on the actual budget. And to kind of put that in perspective, we had 71% of our voters overall vote yes, so it's not too far off. 22 out of the 131 participants did not identify how they voted. One of the comments that we did receive was it wasn't private enough for them to put that down on the survey. This year we had computers set up and we had paper surveys at a table manned by students. So that gives me the idea next year we should have privacy booths. Only 6 people use the computer to actually fill out the survey. So I say stick with the 1-page paper survey, have privacy booths. I think we'll get a better turnout and response rate for our surveys if we do that next year. Okay, 82% were not district employees, and 67% of the respondents were over the age of 51. And what's noteworthy is that the majority of our senior voters voted yes that filled out the survey. So we have great senior citizen support. 74% of those people did not have children enrolled in the district.
This is really shocking.
It's interesting, isn't it?
You would think that the people that would come to vote would be the people that have kids in school.
Right. And if they did not fill out the survey. No. 71 participants mentioned that the major source of information for the budget was the newsletter. After that, a lot of people went to our webpage, but mainly newspaper, newsletter. Those were our big sources of information, as well as TV channels. I think, as you see, we do have a lot of people over 51 who are filling out the survey, who are voting. They go to the reliable, constant, good old-fashioned sources for their information. And only 9% of the respondents actually got information from a presentation, a public presentation. So possibly in the future you don't have to do as many. Just an idea.
I know Greg appreciates that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, overall, that's a summary. I did leave a copy of the actual survey results at your seats, so you can go through. And if you have any questions.
The comments say when both budget choices are the same.
I have no idea what that means.
I get that.
Yeah.
And the football thing, I don't think we draw that from other sports. I think there's plenty of schools that play both.
Right.
Or, one or the other. And then, is it possible to video or record the presentation? When you make a presentation at a board meeting and it's online,
Right.
maybe we need to highlight that, before the budget, that it's at this, go to the board video with this date. And
Yeah.
put that up.
I think
maybe?
that's a great
Maybe we
idea. And if we have it in our newsletter, saying exactly where the link will be for people to reference.
Or maybe we
that
can
would
get it
work.
put in the paper along with the notice of the budget.
That's a great idea.
And why do we need to show identification?
I think the benefit of the survey, and this, this is a brief overview, and we know that, because this isn't necessarily a time to analyze it or make decisions, but what I would suggest to the board is that they would consider using, this, we have this data, and when you get into, and Greg, in the future, when you get into your budget workshops, this would become an important conversation, and analyze in a little bit more detail, talking about, how you may, again, increase the percentage of people that give us that feedback. Although 18% is really not a bad polling number, of a percentage of a group.
People weren't used to doing anything.
Yeah.
They just
Mhm.
And that is, we still want to fill out the survey, which they do.
They're very
So that
supportive.
is very pleasantly surprising to me. Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
So at this time, Greg, I don't think you need to come up to the front, but maybe just, I think in your packet, we have a letter from Joe, or not from Joe Shields, from
Catherine Gavitt.
Attorney for our, I'm just turning it over to Greg to just maybe explain what he's found out.
We've had a lot of discussion at both the audit committee level and at the board level about creating a nuclear stabilization reserve. The idea first came up a year ago, and we didn't really have enough good information to move forward on it. And now, in light of what's happened this year with Gannett, we felt it was very prudent to take a hard look at it. So we had always intended to bring something to the board to be able to create this reserve to help safeguard us in the future in the event of possibly Gannett closing down. I had a resolution from Joe Shields that was about a year old, and I reached out to him and asked him if that resolution was still good. And then he came back with this recommendation and this letter that really states that now is not an appropriate time for us to do it. Apparently the way this reserve works is different than other reserves. When you create it, you create what's called a base year, and you're only allowed to put money in it that you collect over and above what you receive in that base year. And since we have our next pilot agreement captures the same amount of money for 2 years, and then the amount of money starts to decline, we would not have the ability or the funds to put in there. It's a little perplexing because it almost works against you the way they have it structured, but that's the way the legislation is. So since we weren't able to recommend it, we wanted to make sure we shared this with the board so they had an understanding of why at this time we weren't moving forward with this. I think we'll continue to keep it on the back burner, but that's just the way the legislation is written, that and the proper use for this reserve.
So Greg, basically what they're saying is you can't start a fund until you've already lost money.
Yeah, you can create the reserve, but you can't fund it unless you get more money in any year subsequent to when you started it.
From the
And we're going to be in
Right.
a situation where for the next 2 years we get the same amount of money that we got,
Right.
but then the money starts going down. So when you really need it, you can't fund it.
Yeah.
So
I was as perplexed as you because it doesn't make sense to me, but that's...
How can you
So
plan ahead?
when this pilot expires, let's assume that we get another pilot for some reason. And so we structure the payments so that the first year we get X number of dollars. The second year we get a great deal larger number. Third year we go back to the first number. Fourth year we go back to the first number. We could take that difference in the second year and set that aside.
And fund that, and fund your reserve.
Yeah, okay.
So I think what it does to the board, again, is we've tried to be proactive, and as we actually talked about a little bit of executive session in terms of looking at next steps, is go back to the drawing board. I mean, this is clearly something that needs to continue to be researched. I know Greg is looking for other options, alternatives. We'll work with our politicians and with our attorneys to find out if there's and our accountants, auditors, to find out if there is a vehicle that allows us to create some level of reserve over the next 3 or 4 years, again, in anticipation. So again, like I say, Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, what it just means is we have to go back to the drawing board.
So the legislation, there's only so many schools nuclear tax stabilization reserve would affect. And if the legislation isn't written correctly to help those districts, maybe more proactive to try to help change the legislation right now so we can start doing it so it will be more beneficial for us.
Yeah, I think moving forward as we talk about getting help from our legislators, because this will, if what we fear with Gannett comes to be, it'll affect the wealth of our community, and it'll affect our state aid, but usually there's about a 2-year lag before those new numbers start to drive aid. So as we're having those discussions about filling in that gap, Tim, I think it's a great idea to say, the way this is structured doesn't really help you. you know,
Yeah,
it's,
Yeah.
having seen what was just written here, my guess is it wasn't meant to help when you're losing a utility, but if your pilot was based on revenue that fluctuated year over year, it would be meant to smooth that out. Oops, sorry.
yeah.
So there may be some other, as John was saying, some other vehicle that is meant more for the anticipated loss of tax revenue.
Right. And Karen, that's a great point, because our pilot with Gannett previously was an assessment pilot. It had the same assessed value, and then we applied whatever our current tax rate to it. The pilot moving forward is a fixed dollar one, so, but I think that's a very, you bring up a great point of what the intent was, but right now it's not going to do for us what we had hoped, so, we just wanted to share that with the board, give you the latest, because we had planned on making a recommendation to create this to help us in the future, but it just doesn't seem at this time that it'll work.
Well, the good news is there's only 4 operating nuclear plants in New York State, so, I mean, it's not like, we have to deal with a lot of agencies.
Right. But I think something to keep in our back pocket, as the superintendent said, and, maybe it can help us in the future, so not to lose it entirely, but just at this time, it's just not the right time. You're welcome.
Okay, Ron, that concludes our superintendent reports, so back on to board business.
Okay. Under board business, we do have a budget transfer. This is to transfer money into a code so we can purchase some music instruments. Can we get a recommendation for that? Karen, a second? Pam, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The next item would be change orders, EC 16 and EC 17. Can I get a motion to approve these change orders? Phil, a second? Pam, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The third item, after we amended the agenda, is to approve a resolution approving the mediation agreement with Clark Patterson Lee. I think because this was not on the agenda, it would be appropriate that I read the resolution. Whereas the Wayne Central School District, hereafter referred to as the district, has completed construction of its concession stand, and whereas the district had concerns surrounding the design of the concession stand, and whereas Clark Patterson Lee disputed the same, and whereas the district and Clark Patterson Lee, collectively referred to as the parties, participated in a mediation on June the 24th, 2015, and whereas the parties have resolved their dispute, now therefore be it resolved that upon the recommendation of Interim Superintendent John Carlovati and legal counsel, the Board of Education of the Wayne Central School District hereby resolves to approve the mediation agreement between the parties dated June 25th, 2015. Can I get a motion to approve this resolution? Karen, a second. Dennis, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Carla, a second. Karen, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. We have no committee reports tonight. Am I correct on that? Under board president comments, I have a number of items. Business First came out with its rankings again this year, and Joe is fond of saying we do not chase rankings. Nevertheless, we are always proud when our schools are ranked well. Freewell was ranked 56th, and OE was ranked 59th out of, where's my number here, 161 elementary schools in the Rochester area, which puts us at the 37th and 35th percentile. The middle school was ranked 15th out of 99 schools, which puts us at the 15th percentile. The high school was ranked 21st out of 86 schools, which puts us at the 24th percentile. And the district was ranked 15th out of 67 districts, which puts us at the 22nd percentile. I would also remind folks that these rankings are based upon data from the years 2010-11 through 2013-14. They do not include this year. We spoke about graduation. I was also at graduation. I was very impressed with the venue, and I was impressed by the students in particular. I was very impressed by their maturity. and by the obvious affection they felt for Wayne Central, and the affection that they felt for staff. I also had the opportunity to attend the TCA commencement the other night. I think I have the numbers correct. They had, out of the class of 2019, right, Joe? Yes, 2019. They had 58 students who have an average of 90 to 94.9. They had an additional 21 students who have an average of 95 and above. They had over 20 students who had perfect attendance. 8th graders with perfect attendance, and they had over 20 of them. And they had a number of hundreds on state exams and Regents exams, including biology and the Spanish competency. The staff there talk about this class. I remember during my career, I always felt that the class of 1989 was special. They are the ones who started the spirit wall at the middle school. The first spirit wall was done by the class of 1989. That year, that class won 1 out of every 4 Regent scholarships issued in Wayne County. But I think this class of 2019 may be on a par. They seem to be academically very, very great, and it was a great ceremony. And then the last thing I have to say is the Communications Committee. I had an opportunity to talk the other day with Jeremy about the role of Communications Committee. And he said that basically over the last couple of years, the role's been, prior to 3 years ago, I guess there wasn't much of a role, and over the last couple of years, the role has started to develop. As we go forward, I see an increasing need for communications, particularly around issues like GNA, budgets, and things like that. So I would ask the board to consider expanding the role of the Communications Committee to include reaching out to our public on issues and including reaching out to our legislators, the perfect example being this Nuclear Stabilization Fund. If there's only 4 nuclear plants in the state of New York, it seems to me that it would be relatively easy for us to communicate our needs to Assemblyman Oaks and to Senator Nozzolio and to see if they could help us on that level. So I would ask you to consider expanding the role of Communications Committee, and perhaps it's something we can talk about at our board retreat on July 13th and 14th. Okay? And the last thing I have, and this is with a great deal of sadness, John, we do have a plaque for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I will say that you came to us in a time of need, and we certainly have enjoyed the experience of having you be our leader. So thank you so much.
And thank you all. As you know, hopefully, I enjoyed it immensely. We have a great district here, and I still use the word "we" until I walk out the door. Just a lot of great people, a lot of great staff, administrative team. The board has been phenomenal, I think moving us through a real tough situation. I see great things ahead. I think Dr. Kelvin is going to do a fantastic job. And this is unexpected, but it is, we'll find a place for it. I really mean that. It says, who is the best board member? Carla Borman is the best board member.
It says, John Carlavati, an appreciation for your service to the Wayne Central School District 2015. And I know that there are other board members who wish to say something as well, so at this time, please.
Yes, I enjoy that one because I've got another one for you. I've been getting comments from people in the communities, we all do. And, talking about you and what a great job you did. And I said, yeah, we're really sorry to see him go. And some of the comments I got were interesting, like, he's leaving? Why, God, why? Then I had another person say, Carlavati's leaving, he's done? All because he wants to sit around in his plaid shorts all day long?
For those of you who don't know the inside story, may we tell it, John?
Sure.
When we interviewed Mr. Carlavati for the interim superintendent's job, he was in North Carolina, so we did it using technology. And of course, he looked very professional. In fact, I think he had this exact suit on. except that he was not wearing his suit pants. At some point during the interview, we asked him to stand up, and he had a bathing suit on.
He was already in summer mode. Then another person said, I need more grandpa time. And then another one said, wait, he has real grandchildren? He's really not our grandpa? And then, let's see, someone, can't imagine who this might be, I thought I'd uncovered a skeleton in Carlovati's closet. Turns out I was at the wrong house. There's nothing wrong with the guy. I can't find anything wrong with him. And then the last one, he's done? Hey, maybe we can bribe him to stay. I heard he's into old boats. I know somebody who just picked up an old wooden boat down south somewhere, and I'll bet he'd sell it to us for cheap. So in light of that, we've made you a little something to protect your new boat.
Thank you again for those kind words. Oh, dear. This says by order of John Gramps Carlovati, this boat is not for sale or trade, and that's, that's true.
It's a little story, too.
Thank you again. Did you bring this, or did you? Thank you. Here, pass that down.
I think we do have a cake to celebrate John's last school board meeting, so if I could get a motion. Karen and Jeremy. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you so much. Unless you have some kind of shop.
I did that last night.
I know, it's like a lacquer